All right, this is going to be, and I've said this before a few times, but this is actually going to be a really sleep deprived weekly recap. And I have 21 trades to go over. I'll try my best to go over it. And I had 9 trades that were green. Out of 21 trades, only 9 of them were green, which actually makes it pretty cool that the stats were not too bad with all of this in mind. And I still ended up being slightly profitable, but I mean, that was just $10 with $4,400 of, dollar volume traded. So it was definitely a scratch week for what it was. And I think, if anything, that it's just more, I guess, learning, more experience that will help me be more profitable in the future. And let's go over the stats a little before I begin with the trades. I had a 42% winning percentage rate. I do like this. I am trying to get better at trading according to my $40 risk level. My average dollar gain was slightly larger than my average dollar loss, and again, only 9 green trades, but a lot of the red trades were just these little baby tiny scratches. I didn't lose very much, and my average percent gain was better than my average percent loss, which is good, and my position size was about the same, and it looks like it was even averaged out around the same in terms of how long I held on to setup. So yeah, I have no idea how I'm going to do with this sleep deprivation, but let's go ahead and try to go over the setup starting with PHIL on the 22nd. 22nd is going to be right here. So this thing could have been nice. It could have had a lot more in terms of, an overall movement towards the upside. This thing only had one green day, then this red day right here. It's still holding on to itself, but it's not, something that's just consistently uptrending. But I'll be watching it for a potential multi-day breakout, maybe above this 2 level right here. And I do like how, even though it's not really doing that much right now, this thing could maybe try to form a bull flag over, a daily chart. And I do like how it had a lot more volume than it's had previously. So it kind of shows that it might be able to do something for a setup in the future. Let's look at the second, which is going to be right here. I was in at 9:34 a.m. at sub penny 23, and this was a dip and rip setup. So I'll zoom in a bit more. 9:34 was right here, and I got in at 23. My idea was that I had a little option right here. It sells off. It's going to hold itself, break above VWAP, continue the uptrend, and then maybe break this level right here and make a nice morning spike. Be like a nice second green day with a morning spike. And this one did not work out. I did get out 9:36 at sub penny 23. So again, I was in right here and I got out 2 minutes later. I didn't like the price action. I think there was like a big seller at the ask that showed up. Right, there was a big seller at the ask, and it seems like I did try to be a part of the morning spike, but I didn't get filled. This was a scratch trade. Good attempt for what it was. Let's look at the next one, DPLS for the 22nd. 22nd was going to be here. Not bad. This is what I would like PHIL to do. Something that can try to uptrend over a longer period of time and look a lot better. But we still have a nice second green day here. Let's look at the 22nd. I was in at 941 at 3665, and this is first dip under VWAP. So I'm going to zoom in right here. 941 was right here, and I got in at 3665. So right around right here is when I got in. Why? I like how it was having a second green day, nice morning spike, downtrends, and then it makes an uptrend. It did have a dip under VWAP, and this thing was trying to get above it and kind of break this range that it was struggling with. And I think I got in because it was like a big bidder that showed up, and the ask showed that it was getting smaller and it was potentially going to get taken out, I believe. Let's see what happened. I got out at 957, and my average was actually pretty close, 369. Let's just say 37 for 957. So I got out right here, my last position, and my average was 37, so that was right here. Right around right here is when I sold, even though I had my last piece. And I think it was because it was taking a very long time and I kind of lost patience with it. I thought there was a chance that it wasn't going to work. And I think I sold half of my position here for break even, which meant that I was going to not make as much in this overall uptrend, but I at least lowered my risks so that if this thing were to have failed and broken under VWAP and continued a downtrend, I would have at least had half of my position sold for break even, so I would lose a lot less money. This thing worked out. I think I did this one the best that I could have. It just took a while for it to do it, but it did do it eventually. Lowered my risk. It still worked. I still sold for a profit with my average just being around that 37 level. I think this was a pretty good attempt. AMC for the 22nd. 22nd is right here. Very significant because it's like a meme stock. A lot of people are irrational with this stock, and it had like a big gap down after having an uptrend, which makes it ideal because, you know, I had this nice uptrend right here. Maybe people were thinking it's going to do it again. This is the official run to 60 or 500 or whatever they believe in. Starts to sell off. They start getting uneasy. Boom, big gap down, a lot of volume. Very, very bad, but also something that should ideally try to uptrend, which it hasn't. This thing has impressively held down and downtrended some more. Let me get the 22nd here first before we look at the setup. It's going to be right here. Very depressing stock. It just, you know, hasn't been uptrending after that huge gap down. I was in at 1028 at 1160, and this was a reversal long dip under VWAP. So 1028, 1160. Probably zoom in some more. 1028 was right here, 1160. I was in it right here. Why? Because we did have that nice dip right here. And then it had this big morning spike, so it shows that this thing can uptrend. And then it started the downtrend, made its first move under VWAP, and then it looked like it was starting to turn around. And that's why I got in it at 1160 with this thing in mind. And I got out 1030, 1162. So 1030 was right here, 1162. There was probably something I didn't like with the price action that threw me off. Yeah, it showed topping action. That was my note right there. And it looks like I sold a piece while it was uptrending a little bit, maybe right here. And then we had this big ugly candle right here, and then I managed to sell the rest in the uptrend towards 1160. And that's why I got out. It was just a break-even trade. It didn't work out. Obviously, it didn't get above VWAP or anything like that. This thing was a scratch, but it was a good attempt. Let's look at STEK. This one was painful. After this day, or maybe the second one, I stopped trading STEK, just something that keeps downtrending. This was, actually, let me, I need to highlight this first. This was an entry at 1033, 465, morning panic bounce play under a trend line. So 1033, I'll zoom in a bit more. 1033 at 465. So this candle right here, I got in at 465. And why did I say under trend line? Probably has some kind of a trend line, maybe something like this. And the problem was is that I made a lesson a few weeks ago right here. Do not buy a morning panic bounce play setup. Do not go long on a morning panic bounce play setup while it's still under a trend line if it has a wide spread and it's also high priced. That was my mistake with this one. I got burned from it and I got out of the position at 1035, 445. So 1035 was right here, 445 is when I got out. So I got out right here and I got in when it was around this 465 level. I guess at this point it looks like it is past the trend line. It's not under it, so I'm not extremely sure how I had the trend line at the time, but you know, I'm just more accurate with my trend lines on the platform I actually trade, which is on eTrade Pro. I can't, really figure out perhaps how I had the trend line, besides just looking at the screenshot I took when I took the trade. But yeah, this was a attempted morning panic bounce play. Didn't work out. Didn't work out. I mean, and it did downtrend some more. It just didn't work out right here. This thing was a loser, and I traded this a bunch of times. Let's look at the next one. I did try again later, 1038 at 415. So 1038 was right here. I tried it at 415, and I got out of this one at 1049, 422. So right here I got out and my average was 422. Again, I tried this thing uptrended a little bit, and this thing just continued to sell off. It was very sad because this thing, out of all of these red days, has always had like a downtrend, and then it comes back, downtrend, it comes back, downtrend, it comes back. Same here, same here. And then these two were not as ideal, but I think it still offered it. It just closed at its bottom. And this one just did not do it. It was just really bad luck to have tried so many times, a bounce setup after it's been downtrending so much on the day that it doesn't actually bounce back at all. It was a scratch right here, although it did uptrend a little bit. I tried again, and this was a morning panic bounce play after the trend line that I had. Same stock. I was in at 1058, 412. 1058 was right here. I got in at 412, thinking that there was a possibility that it was going to turn around and get to the VWAP level and bounce. I got out of this one at 11,405. So right here is when I got out, 405. Yeah, it didn't work out. I got in right here, downtrended some more, and we did break the day low just a few candles later, and it never really bounced. It just kept downtrending. I did try one more time, 1125, 90 shares at 408, and this was because I bought twice and I sold twice, and I never really got out of the position when I bought and sold the first part. I didn't sell everything, so this ended up being together. I did stick to my $40 risk level. Let's see my first entry, 1125, and my average was 4088. 1125 was right here, and my average was 4088. This is when I held on to this setup because this was ideally going to be an 11 a.m. setup, because this thing is down a lot on the day. It's been beaten up, and we even had like a panic right here. It kind of came back. We're at the 11 a.m. time period, and it's going pretty well in that it could try to uptrend and get towards VWAP, because I've seen the setup work a bunch of times, and I've seen it work with this stock as well, but it didn't do an uptrend. I never got to VWAP. Let's see when I sold. I got out at 1229, 403 and a half. So I sold my last piece right here, and I was out 403 and a half. Again, this thing could have easily went to VWAP. If it kind of got to VWAP at 444, this thing would have been super profitable. It just didn't happen, but I think it was a good attempt for what it was. And I think the last time I traded that ugly stock, let's look at DPLS for the 23rd. 23rd is going to be right here. It's continuously uptrending, but this thing was a pretty ugly red day. 23rd is right here. Look at that downtrend towards the end of the day. I was in at 933, 405. Dip and rip setup. So we'll zoom in a bit more. 933 right here is when I got in at 405. What was I thinking? Well, one green day, two green day, then this could be like something that downtrends, finds a bottom. I'm in at a good price. Uptrends, gets above VWAP, morning spike, maybe even break the day high, and this thing can be a nice solid potential third green day, and that did not happen. I got out at 940 at 403. So again, I was in right here, and I got out at 940. This candle right here at 403. So even though it was this big red candle, it was at the very top at 403. I gave it a chance. It did an uptrend. Sucks. Got out of the trade. That's trading. Not all setups are going to work. I got in it again at 946 at 395, and this was a panic dip by VWAP goal. So 946, 395. Right here at 395. So I got in it right here because, you know, it didn't work out here. Started to panic. And then I thought, all right, it panicked. Now it's reversing. I'm going to be in at 395. And the goal is to sell at VWAP. I no longer have the expectations that it's going to get, you know, to a level above VWAP and maybe trying to break the day high because it's later in the day. It's not a morning spike per se. It could still be one, but it's not as clean as one, right? At the market open, or in this case, like a dip and rip setup. This thing was a bit later, so I lowered my expectations. I got out at 953 at, yeah, this 39.35 level. So 953 right here, 39.35. So right around right here at 953. Very close to my entry. It just didn't work out right here. It was a good attempt. It did uptrend. It got to VWAP, but it took a lot longer than what I wanted it to take, and that's fine. That was a good attempt. At least it did work out in theory, just not when I was necessarily in it. Let's look at the next trade, which is at 955, same stock at 393. So 955, I got in right here at 393, and I thought this was the inverse head and shoulders, shoulder, head, and then I thought it was going to be the shoulder right here and make the move towards VWAP. Again, I first got in it thinking that this dip and this bounce was going to get to it, but now that it downtrended a bit more, I thought it could be an inverse head and shoulders. I got out 1003, 392. Yeah, a lot of scratches. 392. I got out. It just was taking too long, and it was going to be a super wide shoulder. It did work eventually. I did try it now with a different setup in mind, inverse head and shoulders, but it just didn't work out. I mean, it took a long time, but at least in theory it did. It just took way too much time. Let's go back to AMC on the 23rd. 23rd was right here. I really thought this thing was going to try to bounce at some point, and it might do it later, but it has not done it for the entire week after it had that gap down. 23rd is the next day. I got in at 1128 at 1002. Inverse head and shoulders. Big trend line, 1 day break. 1128 at 1002. I'll probably zoom in a bit more. 1128 was right here. 1002, I believe. Why did I get in this? It's kind of hard to show it now, but maybe I can try to do it. At least I'll try just very briefly. 23rd is right here, and then this was the other previous day. The idea was that I had like a trend line from the downtrend, and it's not something that I think I can be able to do, but I guess it does kind of show right here. The idea is that ever since it had the gap down and everything, it was like following this trend line, this downtrending trend line, and then it was starting to get to a point where it was no longer just following it, but it actually broke past. So this was like downtrending price action and everything, but then it got to the point where we broke past it, downtrended, and then it kind of tried to catch the level again. But the idea is that it was going to lose it. I don't really know if I can be able to explain it right here with TD Immediate Trade. But if you look at the video I posted on the 23rd, I do go over the trend line with a lot more detail. This line might not even be that accurate, but it was following like an overall break in the momentum, and that it was constantly downtrending, but now it looks like it was breaking past it. And then I did get in because it was inverse head and shoulder. So at 1128, again right here, I thought this was the shoulder head and then the shoulder of an inverse head and shoulders, and the goal will be VWAP. So this one did not work out in particular. I did get out 1148 at 992, which sucked. Right here at 992 is when I got out. I had to stop, and I didn't like how it was 1148 or maybe 1147, it triggered my stop, which was 992, and it just got right to 992 because it was close to this day low right here, and then it started the uptrend. So again, I was in it around here at 1002. I got out at 992, frustrated that it just barely triggered my stop loss, and I got out of the position just to see it start the uptrend. And that kind of leads to the next trade where I got in because it tried to break the day low breakdown failure, rebound dip buy. The thing in mind that it got to this level of 992, triggered my stop, didn't break the day low, and now it's trying to uptrend again. This was just basically almost like a revenge trade where the setup doesn't work out, barely triggered your stop or your risk level, and now it's uptrending, and now you're getting in because you don't want to be that guy in my mindset that how to get out of the trade because the risk level, blah blah blah, and then it makes the big move you were going for. Very simple, thing to fall into, especially after DPLS where I tried those two setups, and then it did work out eventually. I guess that's where I might have had that motivation. I got in at 1148 at 996. So 1148 again right here at 996 is when I got in, thinking I am not going to miss out on the reversal right after it triggered my stop. I got out 1159 at 984. I had another stop and it got triggered. I got out at 984. This time it did drop a little more to 980, but there we go. The big reversal right after. This thing really played me well. I had another trade, the last trade with AMC, and I like how this one traded. Very happy with how I traded it. Let's take a look at it. At 12:10, I was in at 995 at 12:10. 12:10 was right here when I got in at 995, and I believe this is when I not just had that trend line over the longer period of time, but I also had a trend line now following this price action right here, something like this. Now I wasn't just using a trend line over the longer period of time, but now something intraday. Again, 12:10, and this was an intraday, the new trend line I just added. 1 day trend line break after day low rebound. Again, 12:10 at 995 right here. This thing is still under the trend line, but maybe I thought it was going to break above it, or maybe it was above the trend line that I drew. If I can just adjust it a little, maybe like if I bring it down to these two candles, it would follow it. But the idea is that it was going to break this trend line, or it broke it, and then it broke already the other one over a longer period of time, and then we just had a dip, and it made a new day low, and it had a whole bunch of volume, and now it's rebounding, and it has all of this potential price action to bring it towards the upside with everything in mind. This one was a pretty nice setup, and I held on to it for a while. I got out at 12:59 and my average was 10:05. So 12:59 was right here. Right here is when I got out, and my average was 10:05. So right here, I basically sold, on the way up. And it was unfortunate because it never got to VWAP. It didn't get above it. This thing would have been profitable, even this being a listed stock where I trade a $5 risk level. Let's just see what a sell at 1040 would have been with this in mind. Yeah, imagine that. That would have been pretty cool. Didn't work out. This thing has a lot of bad price action. Maybe all the, I don't know, the apes are actually crying now. I have no clue. Let's look at the next stock. It was a good attempt and a great learning experience. Let's look at GEGI for the 24th. 24th is going to be right here. Very interesting daily chart. A little choppy, but it's overall trying to do like a continuation. 24th is going to be right here. And I was in at 931 at 92. Dip and rip, round number, 1 cent breakout goal. So 931 at 92. I'll zoom in a bit more. 931, I got in right here at 92. What was the idea? It did panic a bit, and then I thought it was going to hold, and then eventually over a longer or I guess not a longer, but a very short, brief amount of time, it's going to break above VWAP and then make a morning spike. In this case, it did actually break the day high and it got a bit higher. I did get out 940 at 965. So my last piece was in this candle, and my average ended up being 965. So right around right here is when I got out. Again, I was in right here at 931, at 92, and then I got out at 940, right around this price action right here. This was my average. This was a pretty good attempt, and I kind of got in a bit early because it did uptrend here, then it kind of came back, but I liked how the bottom of these two candles were higher than here. And it did eventually make a move as high as 1 cent. I kind of chickened out. I think I could have sold a little better. Essentially, I had a trend line and I sold before it broke past it, I believe. I'm just going to guess the trend line might have been from this corner to the corner of this first uptrending candle right here. I guess it kind of broke under it a little bit, but I essentially sold because I saw there was a lot of sellers at the ask at 1 cent, but I actually broke past it. I could have sold even better. This was a good attempt. Let's just see if I were to have held better, what a sell would have been like if it was at 99 instead. Yeah, that would have been a lot more profitable. That's interesting. Pretty good attempt. I did pretty well. I just didn't have the right amount of shares. It seems like I needed to have had maybe 25,000 shares. And then that would bring that close to 40, which is good. And then perhaps that selling to 99. There's always room for opportunity. That's pretty cool. Let's look at the next trade with GEGI. First dip under VWAP, same day. 959, I was in at 88, so 959 was right here. I got in at 88, right here at 959. First dip under VWAP, very simple. Broke under VWAP. Sure, it was under VWAP here, but this was a dip and rip setup. This was, still way in the morning. It showed that it can spike and then it downtrends. And the idea is that it's going to at least get to VWAP. And again, I was in it right here at 88. This one did work out, but I did have a sell because this one scared me. I got out at 85 the next minute at 10 o'clock right here. I got out at 85. I was in it right here. Actually, I got out right here in this candle. I got in right here. Immediately, ugly price action happened. I thought it was going to break the day low. It didn't. I got out at 85, and then once it showed it was trying to actually hold this level and then it could turn around, I did trade this thing and I made up this loss right here. I got in at 10.01 at 88, so the same price. Now I was in it right here at 88. This time it did work out. That's just something perhaps with more experience I can judge if it's actually going to break the day low and I cut the trade before it does, or if it's just going to look like it and then it actually holds and then I didn't have to take that $8 loss right there. I was in again 10.01. I got out 10.07 at 92.33. So 10.07 was right here when I had my last sell, and 92.33. So maybe right around right here is when I sold like my average. Obviously sold my last piece for a higher price than my average. Pretty good attempt for what it was. It did get above VWAP a little. It got to 96. Downtrending one more time under VWAP, second dip under VWAP setup, but then at this point the volume, as you can tell, dried up, so I didn't have an interest in trading it anymore. But this was a pretty cool attempt. Let's look at AABB for the 25th. '25th is right here, and this is the 25th. I was in at 949 at 57, VWAP breakout. I'll zoom in a bit more. 949 was right here at 57. Why did I get in? Kind of choppy, but it had a morning spike, downtrends, went under VWAP, and then I thought it was going to break above VWAP. There was a big bidder, I think in two different levels, and then the ask was starting to get thin. I thought it was going to break past it and make a move towards the upside. I got out 954 at 57.7, so 954 was right here when I had my last piece and I was out 57.7. So right here, and I guess I just sold into the uptrend and then I got out of it completely. I felt like, at least looking at it now, this is something I could have held a bit better. Maybe I could have had like a trend line, perhaps, and then that would have allowed me to sell better. Let's take a look at the notes a little. It looks like I did well. I just didn't like how I sold my last piece. Maybe something in the price action made it look like it was going to uptrend more, and I didn't cancel my last sell position, and then it got filled, and then it uptrended more. It does seem like something I could have sold into the 58s, if not, just a little piece, maybe even half of my position. But I think that was a good attempt. I think I just had, a bit fear, especially having after after so many red trades. This thing was a good attempt. I had the right amount of shares. I traded this one okay. Definitely something I could have done better. Let's look at DPLS for the 26. Right here is a 26. Yeah, it looked like it was gonna break this mini top right here at 42. Didn't really do it that well. It looks kind of ugly, but it can try to do it later. It might even gap up and open above the breakout level and cause a morning spike. I was in it right at the market open at 43.6, so 9:30, 43.6. Let me just get these last two candles out. I guess right here. 9:30, I was in at 436, right here near the tippy top, and I thought, this thing was already above the breakout level, give or take this 42 level, and I got in at 436 super early. Could have worked out. After I got in, it just showed that it was really not going to have that momentum anymore, and I cut the trade super quickly. I was only in this for 27 seconds. I got out at 432 the same minute, right here. Again, I was in right here, got out right here. I thought it was going to be a morning spike. It didn't do it, and unfortunately, this ended up being a dip and rip setup, although it's kind of hard to see it now. This thing didn't, but I kind of got confused and was switching back and forth between DPLS and GGII, and then made me miss out on this ultimate break past the VWAP and uptrend right here. But this was a pretty good attempt right here. It could have worked out, and it would have been pretty profitable. Let's look at GGII for the 26, and this is the last stock I traded for the week. Yeah, very nice price section, although kind of scary right here. This was the second day, so it's already proven itself that it can uptrend over, a longer period of time, at least more than one day. I was in at 940, 91, bull flag, so 940. I'll zoom in a bit more. Right here is when I got in, 940 at 91. I was in it right here. Why? Bull flag, very simple. Crazy morning spike. I think I tried, perhaps. No, I didn't try. I didn't try to get long this, but the idea I had with DPLS worked out here where I wanted it to open, above the breakout point, which in this case with GGII is the previous day high, but with DPLS I thought it was that multi-day range breakout, and because it broke past it, it even had a gap up. Thought it was going to do a morning spike. This is what I wanted with DPLS. It didn't work out, but instead GGII broke the previous day high of it looks like 67, and we were already at 64. Once we broke past 67, super nice morning spike. And I at least got in right here once I had this thing right here in a downtrend. It looked like a bowl. And then this thing was looking like the flag. And again, I was in it right around here at 91. I got out at 941 the next minute. Wow. At 9633. 941 at 9633. So my sell was right around right here at 941. I guess it was a good sell for what it was because it didn't get that much higher. It got as high as 98. It did take a bit longer, but it did break this level eventually. I guess this thing worked out very well for what it was. All right, not much notes on that one. Let's look at the next one. This is another bull flag setup. This one was a bit bigger than the previous one. I was in at 1002.95. 1002 was right here at 95. So I was in it right here. Why? Still looks like a bull flag, but now it's a bit longer. Here's the pole, and now here's the flag. You can even call it an ascending triangle, or maybe actually a symmetrical triangle. Maybe something like this. And then something off of the bottoms, perhaps. Playing it off like this. You can see this thing ended up being, you know, a symmetrical triangle breakout because it was downtrending and uptrending, and then it decided to break the upper part. I did try to be a part of this setup. I did try here, and this one didn't really work out. Just sucks that I missed out on this trade. I remember that now. I did try to be a part of it, but I did hesitate because I didn't like how it looked like it was going to fail right here. And then I stopped looking at it, and then it does it a few minutes later. I got out at 10:03 at 96. So 10:03. I was in it here at 92. I mean 10:02. Now, almost got to the end of this, and now I'm my lack of sleep is catching up. I don't know if I went over my entry. I was in at 10:02 at 95. Right here, 95, thinking that it was going to do it. And then I got out the next candle at 96. I think I sold some at 98, like a third of my position. And then right here, the next candle I sold at 95, I think, or maybe even a bit lower than my entry. But I ended up being just slightly profitable. It did downtrend one more time before it did it. Good attempt, you know, it just didn't work out right here. It worked out in the next one, and that sucks, but at least I tried. Let's look at the last trade, and this was a round number breakouts. 10:09, I was in at 1 penny. Right here, 10:09. So this thing was working out the bull flag and everything, and I got in at 10:09 at 1 penny because we were breaking not just the day high of 99, it was also breaking 1 penny, and you can see a whole lot of volume happen. And I didn't like that actually, how it took so much volume for it to break past 1 penny. I ideally wanted it to break past a penny, and then all that volume can be used to get it much higher. It didn't end up playing that way. I got out at 10:10 at 98, so I got in right here at 1 penny, and I got out the next minute at 98 because I didn't like how it just made the uptrend. And then, you know, it got a bit higher the next candle, but then it looked all ugly and sold off. And that was it. I stopped trading it because it started to trade ugly and choppy. But it was a good attempt, and I'm glad that I tried the bull flag setup right here. Worked out a little later. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this week. I look forward to rewatching this. It's one thing to make it, and another thing to sit back and watch it. Yeah, it's just a lot of scratches, but I think this was overall good experience, and I didn't do anything majorly stupid and lose like a whole bunch of money or something dumb like that. But even if that were to have happened, it would still be a even greater learning lesson. So I think it's just a winning position overall, and God willing, I can keep getting better. This was my weekly recap right here, and that's all I have for today.